This is Bill Ware, and with me is Steve Spinnett, Mayor of Damascus, Oregon. Steve, just late last year, just in time for the holiday season, it looked like Goodwill Industries was going to lose its spot out in Damascus. What happened?
Well, if you drive through Damascus on Highway 212, you will see right by the where Foster Road comes into Highway 212, there's a Buy Mart store there with other stores and a strip mall. And out front, you'll see a big blue trailer, and it says Goodwill Industries on it. Well, Goodwill rented that spot from the owners of the strip mall. But towards the end of last year, some people complained that trailer was ugly or should be moved, and that it was in violation of a sign ordinance. Turns out two of the city councilors made those complaints, and Goodwill executives requested that they be able to speak to the city council in response to the allegation that it was violating a sign ordinance. So we heard the executives, and there were some condescending tones by council members towards the executives. And they said that it violated a sign ordinance, that it was larger than 64 square feet, and said all that kind of things. But then the city agreed to at least allow them to place that trailer in a different location. But then we brought up the issue, if it's violating a sign ordinance, what does location have to do with it? And basically council was using their preference, but attaching a sign ordinance some legal basis in which they can force Goodwill out. It was very upsetting to me. You couldn't tell by looking at me, but I did not like at all what was happening. And so there was finally a motion on the table to table it for 30 days. Then we brought it back later and to discuss it. And really, so there was a lot of back and forth discussion. And I made a quote in my conversation. I said that this is government in its worst. And I also tell a story that I like these microcosms of smaller story because they tell a story of a bigger story. And what I mean by government at its worst was get people in elected positions, places of authority, using their position to do what they want, even with other people's private property, even a private contract that Goodwill did with the owners of the strip mall. And one of the counselors has a business directly across the street, and she doesn't like the visible aspect of that blue trailer. And so anyway, I thought that this was government at its worst, that leadership should facilitate the advancement of others, and I went on about that. I was interrupted by this particular council person who, it's kind of interesting, you make a complaint about somebody, a citizen or a business in the community, then you sit on the very panel that decides the outcome of the very complaint that you put forth as a citizen. So I didn't like that at all either, and the attorneys, the city attorneys did communicate that could be a conflict of interest, and of course the two complaints that were by the city council members, they didn't recuse themselves, they stayed on the panel, and so it was a pretty heated discussion, and it really, again, the microcosm story of the greater problem in Damascus and actually in our county and really in all throughout our country is using your position of authority for your personal benefit. It's really what it is, and that's not at all leadership, and it kind of goes back to what I talked to the model of the servant leader. During the city council meeting, many citizens came forward and complained and in no uncertain terms said and gave their feelings about what the city did attempted to do with the Goodwill truck. So it was nice to see the city citizens be so engaged in what was happening in this injustice, really, is what I would call it. So it was good, and that really helped, and the council ultimately voted 7-0 to allow the trailer to stay.